Hey, it's Squidly. Shoe function and fit is all kind of a subjective matter because everything is different for everybody, because the fit and how it works out for somebody is going to be completely different than the next person. Having said that, here are my opinions on the Salomon Speed Cross 5. This is now the second time I'm going to have to shoot this video, because the first time I did it, I got the versions of shoes, the Speed Cross 5, Speed Goat 4, Speed Goat 5. I got all of that confused, and I said all the wrong stuff all the way through it. So take two. Last summer and the previous winter, I was hiking in the Hoka Speed Goat 4s, and I really liked those shoes. So how did I end up with the Salomon Speed Cross 5s? Well, it's kind of a convoluted story. At the end of last summer, those Speed Goats were just completely worn out. There was just nothing left of them. And I needed a new pair of hiking shoes, and I went to a place that is not my usual place to go, and they didn't have the Speed Goats. And so I got the Hoka Challenger ATR 6. And as it turns out, those were not a very good pair of shoes for hiking in, because I was sliding all over everything, even when it wasn't even wet. But if something was wet, I was skating all over the place. In fact, those shoes caused me some problems. On the Alabama Triple Crown, on day one, that pair of shoes caused me to slip twice. And both times I slipped, I sprained a knee. I finished the last 7 miles or so on 2 sprained knees. It was uncomfortable. So now those Hoka Challenger ATR 6s, they're just regular walking around tennis shoes around the house. I don't hike in those anymore. Then my next hiking trip was coming around, and this is kind of a self-inflicted wound. I went to my regular place to go buy me a pair of trail runners to hike in. The problem was, I was going hiking on Saturday, and I waited until Thursday to go find some shoes. Well, they had the Speed Goat 4s like I like, but they didn't have them in my size. And so I had to come up with something else. And so that something else was the Salomon Speed Cross 5. When I tried these on, and also by reputation, I knew they were going to be a little bit more narrow than what I'm used to. But just because of my physiology, a trail shoe that's a little bit more narrow was fine. Since I've had this pair of shoes, I've worn them for hiking and backpacking. I have also been wearing them for about the last month and a half as a daily wear for work. I work outside and I'm constantly moving. I would say I probably put, depending on the day, somewhere between 4 and 6 miles a day on this pair of shoes. I estimate that I have between 250 and 300 miles on this pair of Salomons. After that Hoka Challenger experience, one of the things I like about this pair is it has a really aggressive tread on it. You can see that it has really big lugs on it. After the 250 to 300 miles, though, you can see that it's starting to wear down on the ball and on the heel where I strike. Now, that's going to be different for every person depending on your gait and kind of how you walk. How they wear like that is going to be a little bit different. And I wouldn't expect that after that many miles that all of that tread would still be there. I would expect there would be some wear. On the uppers, though, as ridiculously dirty as these things are, on the upper there is no sign of wear at all. Maybe it's the dirt that's holding it together. On my last 2 pair of trail runners, the Hoka Speed Goat 4s and the Ultra Temp 1.5s, I can tell you that by the time I had this many miles, there was already pretty significant wear on the uppers, especially on the Ultra. I had already worn holes in them. One of the advantages of trail runners in general is that after getting wet, they dry out pretty quickly. When I used to wear boots, I used to do anything that I had to do to avoid getting them wet. And then in about 06, when I switched to trail runners and kind of low top hikers, I changed on that forever. So I don't worry now about getting my feet wet, getting the shoes wet. Even in wintertime, I just don't worry about it. If I get wet, I get wet. And the advantage here is that they dry so quickly. So I can walk through streams and stream crossings that don't have bridges and just go right on through and don't worry about it, just get wet. There are also some places where I walk right up the middle of a creek, a stream, and don't even worry about it, because trail runners dry so quickly. As of filming this is August. Just this past May, I was on a trip in the Sipsey Wilderness where I love to hike, and I had some stream crossings, visited waterfalls, and my feet got wet. All day long, my feet were getting wet. There was even one point where I was walking directly in the stream and essentially using the stream as the trail. By the end of the day, the shoes were, of course, wet. And after each crossing, it was just a matter of time before the shoes started to dry out. I can tell you from experience that they dry pretty quickly. Now, at the very end of the day, were the shoes really completely dry? Of course not. There's no trail runner, I don't care how good it is, that's going to be completely dry at the end of the day. I'm not even sure Teva sandals would be completely dry after that. But they dried out enough so that at the end of the day, I could change into a dry pair of socks and slip into these shoes, especially by the next day, slip into these shoes and didn't feel like I was putting my feet in a swamp. I don't usually recommend or not recommend any piece of gear. It's a personal sort of thing where you just have to figure out for yourself what works for you and what doesn't. In the case of the Salomon Speedcross 5, would I buy these again? Oh, absolutely. I would buy these again and wear them, and they would work just fine for me. The next time that I have to go and buy trail shoes, am I going to get these? Probably not. I'm probably going back to the Hoka Speed Goats, except that now they have a Speed Goat 5, so I think I'm going to give those a shot. But I can assure you, if the place where I usually go to buy my trail shoes, if they don't have the Speed Goats in my size, I'll probably be going with the Salomon again. So those are my thoughts on the Salomon Speedcross 5. If you have any thoughts on the Speedcross 5, Salomons, or just trail shoes in general, put those in the comments. Let's have a conversation. And remember, on the way out, don't forget to hit like and subscribe.